right, everyone. Welcome back to Studio Talent Collective, the podcast. I can't believe it. It is 2026, and I was not going to do an episode before like another week away yet or two, but here we are with Heated Rivalry. So episode 228, I'm catching up with my very good friend, Simone Eyles from Disinfluencer, who is also, hello, a massive Heated Rivalry fan. And when I say fan, I don't just mean the show, I mean the books too. So an avid reader, deep in the fandom, and the perfect person to pull apart this phenomenon, and that's why we've got her on the show. So we're going to dive into this explosive rise of Heated Rivalry and why this series has become such a powerful disruptor in the industry. We're going to cover everything. I mean, we're just going to talk about it too. So if you're a fan, stay tuned. Everything from lower budget blockbusters breaking into the market, the rise of lesser known actors. We're going to talk about that. Strip back to camera cinematography, the bold storytelling choices. This show proves anything is possible. All right. So without further ado, let's kick into the show.
I'm Josephine Lancuba, and welcome to Studio Talent Collective, the podcast for dance and performing arts studio owners. Here we share industry insights, inspiring stories, and real talk to help you build a thriving studio and in-house talent agency. As a performing arts business coach and talent agent, I'm all about dreaming big and growing together as a community. You're in the right place. Let's leap in.
Welcome, everyone, to episode 228. Again, I cannot believe it's already 2026. I have my very good friend Simone here with me. Welcome.
Hey.
So I've called this episode Heated Rivalry Changes the Industry with Sim and Joe. And that's because it does change the industry. But before we jump in, I mean, come on, as a fellow talent manager, someone who works with talent, someone who is a book reading lover like myself, but you in a very different genre, which we're going to talk about. What'd you say? Say it.
I said a very, very different genre, yes.
Very different genre. We're going to talk about it. But for anyone listening, because I haven't read the Heated Rivalry series. Like, I didn't read the books. I just watched the show. Now now everyone's seeing it everywhere. I loved the show, but you know everything far deeper and more intricately, which is why you're here. But for those that don't even know what Heated Rivalry is, like, quick nutshell, give it to us really short and sweet. What is Heated Rivalry if they're living under a rock right now?
Heated Rivalry is an romance, so queer male to male romance. As the name says, two rival hockey players who get hot between the sheets. But in saying that, and there'll be a few spoilers here if you haven't watched it, my favorite trope of all is a beautiful, happy ever after. So it's a beautiful story about rivalry in sports, but an romance, and yeah, it's got some pretty hot stuff in there too.
It does. And that was one of the things, like, I wasn't really into romance stuff, like, to be real, not for any reason except was never into it. And you're like, Joe, you've got to check this out. Like, check it out. The series is out. Because I'm like, I'm not going to read the books. I'm just not that into it enough. You're like, watch the show. I'm like, hey. So I watched the show. First episode, I'm like, yeah, cool. Not so bad. That's all right. Worth watching episode 2. I think by episode 4, I'm like calling, going, oh my God. And like just decoding the whole thing. So this is the thing. And I want to say for anyone that might have, their back up about this topic, not comfortable on the genre, whatever, like there's so many things. This is actually beautifully done. I think it's sold to many as this sexy gay romance, but truly it's just a beautiful love story. So it's really taking what was niche or once taboo or largely unseen story that might have lived on the fringe of the film industry.
Yes.
It's been more embraced.
Yes.
Celebrated and loved by the masses. And I think that is the thing that has made this series really stand out. And it's made a huge shift for the creators and the producers and the performers because it's changed the future of screen storytelling. Now you've brought your notes, and I know there's so many things you want to unravel here. So I'm going to let you kick it off. Simone, talk to me. Let's kick it off because I know there's so much to uncover here for those Heated Rivalry fans or soon-to-be fans.
Okay, so first of all, I would have never have put myself as an MM romance lover either, but here we are. I'm actually deep in my paranormal era as we speak, but we won't go there. And I guess what you touched on is if you're a fan of Schitt's Creek, this is probably a really good way to explain it. And I'm sure everyone is. If you're not, why not? So Schitt's Creek really kind of led the way with showing a queer romance told in a story that was beautiful without trauma from lived experience. Now, and there was a bi-awakening in there as well. So with that, I guess for me is personally, I love listening to romance novels in my downtime. It's a way for me to chill, a way to escape. And I was introduced to romance through it was actually a different story, one of my favorite narrators, Joel Leslie, and it was a beautiful Australian story. It's not an Australian author, but there's this book about a hard of hearing person who comes to Australia. It's called Honeymoon for One. He comes to Australia for his honeymoon to look for his Crocodile Dundee. And I think for me and with my field, when we have these stories that are on the fringe, you say they're on the fringe, we say it's on the fringe, but to the queer community, to the disability community, this is our normal. And not to see ourselves and our stories represented through a lens of like queer joy. Like, yes, there's obstacles and things to overcome, but why can't queer people have beautiful love stories? Why can't people with disabilities have beautiful love stories? Why can't we have stories, especially sex scenes with these characters? You know, if you think about all the sex scenes in media, it's heterosexual sex, which is cool. But again, this is about representation, and we're talking queer romance, but you can apply that to disability.
Again, disability is your space, just for anyone listening. Like disability, talent management in the disability space and whatnot is your space. So I love that you're seeing those like alignments in the sense of what we would call a niche, untold story, non-inclusion space when it comes to film and television. Yeah,
and I think the reason why the show is so successful, like you have said, is it's actually a series, a book series. So I think from a creative point of view, we see it all the time where a book adaptation is kind of butchered when it comes to a TV series or cinema. And for someone who hasn't read the books, there's so much in the series that is like word for word from the book. And you don't really get that, but I think you need that. So we have this simultaneous fandom of people who love the books and then people like yourself that are never going to read an romance, but are here for the creative, the storytelling and the cinematography, which is the genius of Heated Rivalry.
Yeah, and let's talk about, okay, so the reason it's changing an industry, hence the title of this episode, one of the points, budget. So they've gone into this with 2 camera angles, which for anyone that's been on a film set and, you know, even for bloody commercials, you've got multiple angles. Like for anyone that's been on a professional film set, to only have 2 camera angles is like budget territory, okay? So usually we'll see that more in an independent space, and this is more of that independent space. But so it's done on a lesser budget, and it's interesting because, you know, it opens the gateway for more creatives and filmmakers to create.
Yes.
What's your take on that?
Yeah, I agree. It's not only done low budget, but also I think they shot the whole series in 37 days. So also, and there's some incredible moments in there the cinematography. And I listened to a podcast yesterday with the actress Svetlana. I don't want to butcher saying her real name. Cassandra, I think is how you pronounce it. And she was saying that she just kind of the first day on set, she filmed a scene, the funeral scene, where she walks in on the brothers arguing. And she said for her as an actress, Jacob, the showrunner, the creator, the writer, they did it like one take, lots of one takes, because he was so clear in his direction of what he wanted, and they could deliver the scenes, the dialogue in one take, because everyone was so committed to the project with their level of professionalism and the expectation of, not an expectation of time or budget, but just really giving it their all, because low budget, they're just unknown actors, they're doing their thing with very little expectation, and so I think that really plays a part in the success of the series as well.
The time frame, that's incredible. Like filming it in less than 6 weeks or whatever it was. That's incredible. And isn't it interesting? Because I've actually heard stories before of some, film sets not being set on particular, I'm talking about multi-hundreds of millions of dollars being spent on a film, with, alternate endings being filmed and blah, blah. It's so interesting that when you're given a budget and a time frame, how you can just use it. If you give someone 12 months, they're going to spend 12 months. If you give someone 30 days, they're going to make it happen in 30 days. And I think as well, we talk about budget, but the thing is, looking at it, you wouldn't know it's low budget. That's the thing.
Yes.
They've done it on 2 cameras. They've done one take scenes with these incredible actors, but none of it looks low budget.
Yeah. And I think that's really key, because I believe, especially with all the AI and all the smoke and mirrors, this has resonated purely based on the story and the creative and the talent. Right. And you say budget, people think budget first, but really it's based on the creative and the delivery.
Yeah.
And they have nailed that budget irrelevant, time frame irrelevant, and that's why it's gone wild.
And guys, there's so many, and everyone listening, that I know you're thinking Heated Rivalry, whatever, how does this relate to whatever? I think it does, because you can produce quality work within a budget and give incredible deliveries, but it's all in the planning. Like you said, the directors come in and they are clear. They are clear as crystal, because they have to be, right? They don't have time not to be. They've got to come in with a clear vision, and they've got to nail it. So they do, right? I think having that clarity of vision was really critical to the delivery of the cinematography and the scene work and all that jazz.
Yeah, and I think we really need to give credit to Jacob, who wrote the series, who adapted the film. Now, there's some really key piece of information here is Jacob is gay. So he has, in my kind of world, I would use the term lived experience. So he is a gay man who was a fan of the books, who literally slid into Rachel Reed's DMs on the gram, who is the author, and he was saying he loved the books and he had the vision to create the series, and he was like, if I don't do it, someone will do it, and they will do it poorly, because he had a very clear vision of how this would be. And I think each episode in itself is just full of so much. And I think another key part, which is incredible what he pulled off, is episode 3 with Scott and Kip. Now, in the series, there's 6 books in this series. So the first book is the story of Scott and Kip, which is really pertinent to Heated Rivalry, which is the second book. So when episode 3 came out and you hadn't read the books, it would have been even I think you said was I don't get it. And I'm like, no, you have to hang in there. And then I think Episode 3 for me now is probably one of my favorite, well, they're all my favorite episodes, but I think how Jacob has done that, because now that you've seen the whole series, I think you can retrospectively go, okay, well, that makes sense now. But at the start, you'd be like, it's such a U-turn.
Oh, I did. I called you. I remember I phoned you after that episode. I'm like, okay, why? I don't get why we're shifting to the Scott Hunter scene randomly in the middle of the series. Like, I didn't get that part. But it all weaved in and it all made sense in the end. But yeah, I think having the context of the book would have definitely had helped at that point. Having said that, guys, you don't have to read the book to enjoy the show.
No,
You don't. I love that. You know how you and I talk, or we talk nearly every single day, by the way. Like, let's be real, every single day. Yeah, that moonshot, we talk about, moonshot goals.
Yeah.
Or like having the fact that, that guy, what's his name? Because you know all the people.
Jacob,
thank you. Anyone that's a huge Heated Rivalry fan, they're like, what? No. Again, remember, I'm just watching the series. I'm not Simone, okay?
I'm obsessed.
Yes, totally different level playing fields here. I love that he just DM'd.
Yeah.
And isn't that powerful? Like, what a moonshot. Like, I'm like, hey, I'm really interested in this thing. I want to do this project with you. I know you're to me, you're a really big deal. To others, they may not be, but to me, you're a big deal, but I don't care. I'm sending you a DM. I don't have your contact details. I know nothing. I'm just putting myself out there and I'm going to say that I want to work with you. And that little moonshot goal, that little dream turned into this.
Yeah.
I think there's a message in that for everyone, don't you?
Absolutely. And he had to have a crack. He had his crack, he shot his shot and he won. And I think he's spoken a lot about this because he couldn't bear the thought. He had a vision, and I think that's really important as well because as a creative, this happens to me all the time. I have a vision of a whole thing, a very complicated thing, just clear as day comes to my mind. So he had a vision for what he's created, and that is like a masterpiece of work, a body of work. And he couldn't bear the thought of it not only not coming to life, but someone else doing it poorly or not to his vision. So I think that's really key there with creatives is the series is very, high sex, like very male on male sex, right?
I will say I learned a lot about gay sex through that show.
but so in saying that, right, so we're shocked, but if it was male female it wouldn't be a thing. But he also had a bit of pushback with like, oh, it's a bit too much, and he was like, no, there's more in the books, trust me, there's lots more in the books. But do you know what I mean? Like he and this is because he's a gay man and he knows, like, you've learned a thing or two about gay sex. Like, gay sex is gay sex. It's different because you have different bits. Might need to edit that out, but do you know what I mean? Like, and that's why, as a gay man, it's authentic because he knows gay sex.
Yeah. I think that is important. I mean, I certainly wouldn't be able to direct that because I've not had that experience. And people do get consultants on sets and things like that when they don't understand particular nuances of different communities, cultures, etc. And you can do that. But I think having it come from him himself, I think that was really, really cool. And it was done really well. It was confronting at first just because it's like any sex scene for me is quite confronting. I'm a bit more of a prude, Simone knows. I won't go there. Okay. And we're not editing any of this out, by the way.
Yeah. Well, I think they did have an intimacy coordinator on set. And
always,
if you think so they talk about it as choreography, right? So obviously they're wearing bits over their bits, but you can see, the placement of the knee. So, when Scott and Kip are in the bed, he's holding onto the sheets and lifting the sheets up as he goes down on him. Like, there's lots of choreo in there, and that's the intimacy coordinator. And then, the stairwell kiss after they are together is quite sweet and intimate. And they were like, that doesn't really suit the thing, but it kind of fits because they've had this really intimate moment and now they're saying goodbye, and it's a really sweet moment. So, and yeah, the intimacy coordinator obviously helps them with a lot of that, but I don't think people could really understand the choreography. Like, that's just not one take. I think I heard Francois, who plays Scott Hunter, said it was like a week of sex scenes of filming, with...
Yeah, and it does take the sexiness out of it when you're on set with a whole crew around you and an intimacy coordinator and choreography. Like, I think, it's interesting how they've been able to really master that. But
yes,
it's so, I mean, to be an actor, right, and do that is incredible, especially because I later found out that the actors, playing Shane and Rosanoff, they actually aren't gay in real life.
No.
I was surprised by that because I'm like, wow, they freaking nailed it, They really did.
Yeah.
Amazing.
And yeah, I think if we can speak about the actors, unknown actors, Connor Story, who plays Ilya Rozanoff, is a Texas born and bred man working in LA, waiting tables. Hudson, who plays Shane, is a Canadian fellow who was also waiting tables. And I think a lot of people were also shocked to know that Connor is not Russian. And, when they did the show as well, I think there's maybe 24 pages of Russian dialogue in the script. So they shot all the Russian dialogue first because he learnt it phonetically. He doesn't know what he's saying. He's just memorized the words. And they did that deliberately because it was so intense. And so he could film the rest of the series with a clear mind, because that would take, that Russian monologue, is just, again, first take. He got that in the first take, and it's just so beautiful. So, to be able to deliver that monologue, there's so much emotion in that monologue. And he, as a person, doesn't really know, he knows what the meaning is, obviously, but to deliver that phonetically and to have that concentration to deliver all that, it's a 4.5-minute monologue. It's incredible, absolutely incredible with his craft and his delivery and the accent. Oh my goodness, give him all the awards.
Yeah, absolutely.
Are you a performing arts studio owner who has ever dreamed of having an in-house talent agency or thought about representing your students professionally on screen and on stage? With Studio Talent Collective, the world's first plug-and-play talent agency, now you can create an in-house talent agency with confidence, ease, and support. Increase your profitability, your student retention, and your industry credibility with an in-house talent agency. Want to learn more? Reach out at Studio Talent Collective on Instagram or head to studiotalentcollective.com. Link is in the show notes.
Let's talk about the actors. Okay, so we've got Connor and Hudson. Like you said, they've taken on this epic gay romance story of the ages, iconic now. Iconic. I don't think they would have known they were stepping into something iconic at the time, but they have.
Any of them ever expected anything that's happened from this? Yeah.
Connor is American, takes on this Russian character, which again was crazy because I was shocked to find out that he's not Russian at all. Doesn't even have Russian heritage. I was like, what? No way. Did it really well. I want you to talk about this because some people will talk about things like cultural appropriation, etc. I think you said that the writer explained this really well. I would like it. We spoke about this on the phone the other day. Do you remember that conversation?
I think so. Remind me.
Yeah, just
about them not them not being gay.
No. Oh, maybe. I think it's more just around the lines of people were saying you should. Okay, let's talk about even in the disability space. Remember Snow White? They were talking about how you had to hide, like they used AI animated characters, whatever, instead of people with disability. People were outraged, and rightfully so, because I mean they could have very easily have just hired people that suited, you know, the seven dwarves in Snow White, right? Okay, sure, we get that. That was on point. Now people are saying they could have hired gay actors, a Russian actor, blah blah blah.
I know what you're talking about now. So yeah,
Yes.
I think we need to be really clear. And I don't want to speak for the gay or the queer community, but I've been looking at even just watched something today from someone within the queer community calling out, and this happens in the disability space too. So first of all, and Jacob again kind of says this really well. That it's not a documentary. Not the thing.
That's all right. We've got Simone's daughter Jet in the background there while we're recording. So all good. That's my life in the holidays.
Yeah. So yeah, like it's not a documentary, and it's a story. It's a love story, and they're athletes. So they were cast based on their talent and ability. It wasn't a gay competition, so to speak. And when you're acting, you have to step into the character, and there's a whole lot of nuances to both of these characters, especially the age. Like, you know, again, back to the book. In the book, Ilya has like short curly hair, and Connor has short curly hair, and you know they talk a lot of.
It's gorgeous, by the way.
So gorgeous. So I think, you know, I know what we spoke about the other day, and it's quite hard because I think, you know, to cast, like I believe we do want the representation, but I think this transcends that because it's not about a gay representation story. And this is really important, right? Because this is what people expect. They expect advocacy. They expect trauma. They expect like, woe is me. Look at me. I'm not there. But this isn't what this is. This is a love story. Like, you know, it's kind of like saying, how dare a white woman from Canada write a gay hockey romance? Like a lot of the romances are written by women. And I think, again, I think the creative transcends that conversation, and it's quite a shallow conversation because an actor, it's kind of like saying, if I'm a white straight person, I can only play white straight people roles. Like as an actor, you play a character, you can't like pigeonhole people into a thing. And although we do want that representation, I think we have that through the showrunner Jacob, and also I think the story itself, it's not about the gay actors. It's about romance in sports, the challenges of being closeted. I think, you know, even for the character Hollander, you know, he has to come to terms. He's coming to terms with his sexuality. Like he's seeing this man for over 6 years, and he just realizes and says it out loud that he's gay. You know, like that's what this
That was wild to me, that actually. It's like 6 years later and he's finally saying, I'm gay. It's like, and it's so funny because Rosanov's like, yeah.
Yeah. But this is back to the cultural nuances that we're talking about. So I'll talk in the disability space and I don't have a disability, right? But I'll talk about the culture of disability and representation, even though I don't have a disability. But in the queer space, this is like a cultural thing. Like you're either supported out and proud, doesn't mean you don't face, you know, challenges and discrimination. And then also, I think for people to, you know, to come out, how do you do that? Especially if you're an athlete or you're a star, like even in 2025, you know, I think we've got just last year, one Australian ex-AFL player has come out as bi. We had a gay NRL player like 20 years ago. That's 2 people in 20 years within the Australian sports scene that have disclosed their sexuality. Now, surely there's a lot more gay, bi, queer whatever people in sports, in acting, whatever out there. So I think culturally, we might see it a bit weird and underground, but unfortunately for queer people, that's kind of how it is for them. And we don't see that story. That's why this is so important. We don't see that point of view because we're just seeing it as tragedy or homophobia or, something, you have to kind of prove yourself. And that's why I kind of refer to Schitt's Creek. Schitt's Creek was the first series that just celebrated a beautiful love story. There was no homophobia. There was no backlash for their love. They were championed. They were supported. And isn't it bizarre that you don't see that? I find that quite strange.
Totally. And you were saying as well, we need to see more of that, especially you being, in the business that you're in, your lived experience and that advocacy space for disability. It would be great to start seeing amazing mainstream, wildly popular stories with people with disability. They exist, or the stories exist, but again, it's not the norm, right? We want to see more of that. Funnily enough, because I'm a bit of a soccer fan, football for our overseas friends. I love my soccer. Yeah. Watch it with the family. Got tickets to go see the Women Asian Cup. We've got, watching Sydney FC at home with the kids. My kids play soccer at the soccer field every weekend. Love my soccer. You love no sports except for an imaginary hockey league that is Heated Rivalry. This makes me laugh so much because I was having that conversation with you about sports and you're telling me it's the rules, the players, the teams, the different leagues of this imaginary hockey league. And that just cracks me up so much.
Well, that's the power of art, right? And I just want to be clear here, Jo. I know all things NHL and I also know all things NFL. So I'm across both of those, which is Hockey League, National Hockey League and the NFL. I know the positions. I know how many people. I know the blue line. I know all the things. Yeah. Of these.
But is that because of Heated Rivalry, right?
Yeah, because I read a lot of queer sports romances. So yeah, I know all the positions, literally all the positions. Yeah.
I love that. That is so good. And it's so fun, and I think that more people need to get into it. All right. So guys, some of the key points for takeaways from today: budget does not equal quality of the delivery. You can be on a budget and with a great plan have amazing delivery. Moonshot goals. Gotta love a moonshot. If you've got a dream to speak to someone, DM them, reach out. Who cares if they say no or completely ignore you? Do you agree with that?
Absolutely.
You never know. We've talked about the creator of Canva. A lot of people know Canva. I'll be quiet, printer. My printer's going off in the background. Don't know if you can hear it. Go away. Sorry, I'm closing it down. Okay, be quiet, printer. Okay, so yes, moonshot goals are a big deal. We talked about the creator of Canva. You're a big fan of her. What's her name? You know it.
Perkins. Melanie.
Say it again.
Melanie Perkins.
There we go. Melanie Perkins. How many no's did she get before she got a yes?
100. She needed funding, 100 no's. No one would invest in her idea. Yeah.
Yeah, right. So this is what I mean. It's okay to get no's, but definitely go for the moonshots. Inclusion and representation matters, but it doesn't just matter. People actually will buy it.
Yes, that.
This is the thing. So I know you talk about this a lot with disability space.
Yep.
But talk to me about that, because that is another takeaway key point from this discussion today. And I think it can be applied to your business. If you're listening at home, I know we've got a lot of studio owners listening, creatives, different industry people. It's we want to be inclusive. We want to represent. Absolutely. My talent agency, Studio Talent Collective, we embrace diversity. We train diversity. We talk about diversity in culture. But the thing is, it actually has a market. So why aren't we selling to these people? Like, it's ridiculous, and other people will buy too. Like, as a business owner, there's nothing wrong with saying that out loud. Like, what's your take on that?
Oh, absolutely. I think if you would have put, let's have a romance with two unknown lead actors on a NHL sports team as rivals, I don't think anyone would have greenlit that as a concept. However, the books have a fandom. The series now has a fandom, and I think that's probably, I hope, a big takeaway for the big production houses and the creatives and Hollywood and all of that out there is, like what you said before, like, people are hungry for real stories, real beautiful creative, like the cinematography of that series is incredible. So we have all that. It's kind of weird that it's such an untapped market. And I think it's not about, oh, this is done so well. It's like, finally you've served something to an underserved market and they are gobbling it up. And they are not only gobbling it up, like, they are going crazy and telling everyone about it. It was made for Crave Canada, got picked up by HBO, which distributes through the US, Australia, New Zealand. And now I think January 10, 3 days time, it's going to launch on Now in the UK, Ireland, and gone to the Philippines. So I don't think they ever wanted like they never envisaged a global distribution, but here they are. And I think, it's kind of to me, I'm like, I've got 400 books you could turn into a movie and you'd get the same result. Like, these books are incredible. The stories are incredible. And yeah, just because, we've never been served it. And now I hope we see more of it. And even though we're talking queer romance or romance, or a book adaptation in itself, apply that to disability and give me a beautiful love story of people with disability that isn't about overcoming stuff and advocating, just a beautiful story about people and falling in love. It's the classic trope, like, you fall in love with someone that you're not supposed to fall in love with. Like, doesn't that happen to everyone? The opposites attract, all the things. It's got all the things, and that's what people love about it. I think what Jacob again has done so incredibly well is he hooked everyone with the hot sex. And then, the last episode, there's minimal sex and we see all the parallels, but it's more about the emotion. So he gave us what we wanted, but in the end we got what we need. And I think they're just really simple basics of storytelling, story arcs, incredible creative delivery, just real basic stuffs. But I think what they've nailed it is across every layer, from production, cast, music. They just nailed it because they didn't have time to faff around, budget and time, so they just all nailed it, and it all just come together beautifully and has exploded.
Yeah, I love the song. The song from the show, you've got that spinning in my head now. Yeah, these bold, brave, authentic decisions made in the creative. We need to be seeing more of that. All right, well, that's it. That's Heated Rivalry in a nutshell.
I've got a question for you.
Yeah.
If you were to rep those two now, they've just been signed to CAA. What advice as their agent would you give them moving forward to Connor Story and Hudson?
Oh, well, I would definitely be renegotiating any of the contracts for the next series. I know they're going to be appearing. Honestly, though, I think now they don't need to be pigeonholed in this genre. I think that the world is their oyster. That's another thing. I think that there's a risk of being pigeonholed as an actor. I don't think that needs to happen. These guys have the goods and the talent. They are diverse actors. I actually would be putting them out to like a global market. I think that they are absolutely ready. And yeah, we'd definitely be upping and negotiating fees. I think whatever they got paid on that first series will never happen again. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I don't think, I'd love to know how much they were paid. Yeah,
there's nothing online about it.
No, it's kept very tight. I believe Connor's Story was cast first, and then obviously they did the chemistry test with Hudson, and then I believe he was working his waiter job up until he had to go to set.
I got to say, one of the key things I would say as well is to ride the wave. What I think happens, especially with young artists, and this even happened to me in my very beginning of career, like, you know, I did stuff, okay? You know, I was in top 40, like X Factor, blah, blah, blah. I don't even want to talk about it. It's like 100 years ago, whatever. I did a bit of Australian Idol on stage, all the things. All of that stuff happened, and I was meeting some really cool people. And I had friends that actually went on to be top 3 Australian Idols of the time. Again, we're talking like 20 years ago. A very good friend of mine, actually, at the time, she was like, I think top 3 Australian Idol. And I had other friends that were coming through the ranks of different productions. They were getting lead roles in television shows, all this stuff. This is in my heyday in my 20s, right? I'm an actor trying to make it, and a singer trying to make it in the big bad world of entertainment. And a lot of them fizzled out. And I think the thing that we didn't know then, which we know now as adults and mature humans, is you've got to ride the wave, but you've also got to not just rely on your agent. I think that you need to seek opportunities and present them to your agent. You need to tell them what you want, and you've got to actually move fast, because things can fizzle out really quickly when you hit a peak like this. And these actors, these guys, they are at the peak of their career right now. They don't realize how fickle the industry can be and how fast it moves. And next week they could be out. Now, I'm not saying they will be, like, you know, they could end up like a Guy Sebastian who has longevity in his career, you know, someone like that who kept on the path, kept performing, got on stages, kept touring, kept pushing, you know, went to present on television shows. So 20 years later, he has a really great career. But you can't just rely on TikToks, and you can't just rely on the wave. You have to work for it, is basically what I'm saying. Like, this is actually, like, people think, oh my God, I've made it. I actually think the opposite. This is when the work begins.
Yes, I agree. Yeah.
This is actually when the work begins. That would be my biggest advice. And I think that we reach a peak in business, in career, and we think, oh my God, yes, we've made it. And so then we rest on our laurels and we sit back and we go, now I'm just going to ride this. And that's awesome. You can ride it for a short period, but then you've got to go, right, what's my plan? What's my strategy? And if I want to maintain this long term, like if I want to be the Madonna, the pop queen of my industry, how do I do that? Taylor Swift, perfect example. She keeps producing albums.
Yeah.
She keeps coming up with golden nuggets, you know, her Easter eggs, for anyone that's a Tay-Tay fan. Yeah. She just is a marketing machine. She doesn't do interviews often, but she leveraged off her boyfriend's podcast because that made sense when she was launching her new album. She keeps moving. She comes back from tour, she rests for a month, and then she's back in the studio recording her next album. I think that people think that this moment, this peak, this pinnacle moment in the career is enough, but it's actually just the beginning.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. 100%.
You know, and that's the biggest advice. And I wish someone had said that to me when I was younger, because I did have moments. I always call myself almost famous. I'm like, totally. I came second in all the things. I almost got the televised spot. I almost got, like, I was seen by record label, you know, representatives. I'm like the almost famous girl, and I'm cool with that now because I love what I do. But at the time, I didn't understand it. And it was because I relied solely on my manager or my agent. Like, I wasn't proactive in my career enough, and I wasn't marketing myself and utilizing the tools in front of me, free tools like social media. Even back then, I know it was like really like MySpace and Facebook or whatever. but it doesn't matter. I wasn't leveraging what I had at the time. Radio was really big back then. You know, we could have done more of that. I think people just don't understand that you actually have to work to keep your spot. You can get there, you can go viral, but you got to work to earn to keep it. That's what I'd say. Was that too passionate for you, Sim?
No, I wanted to talk about that because I think, you know, considering they've just signed their unknowns, I think for me, the biggest takeaway is like, let's unearth more talent. Like there is a plethora of Connor and Hudson's out there, and let's see more of that, more diversity, and let's give those up and comers a shot. I think that's
yes, please. And we, especially like in the Australian entertainment market, we see the same actors on all the shows. The same, even in musical theatre. Oh my God! And not to like put down those people, like they are doing incredible work, but geez, man, can we see someone else? Like,
well, I think the biggest thing about Heated Rivalry is there's enough for everyone. And back to the market, the market is chomping at the bit for that diversity, for those different stories. So we can have the superstars doing the things, but let's have the queer romance, let's have some disability, let's have diverse stories, diverse talent. Let's have the rock stars. Let's have the up and comers. Like the market is craving that. I think we've gone to like polished and top shelf, and you know that's why people have tuned out, because there's no diversity. Not just like in every layer, from the creative to the talent. And I think this is like we talk business, we talk shop, we talk about product market fit. This is product market fit to a T, because they've made a product that fits the market. And the market, like I'm sure you can't open a social media platform without seeing something Heated Rivalry, even if you've never watched it. You've got a fandom creating the most incredible content. I tried to buy like the banana socks. I couldn't buy them. Like there's no merch. Like I don't think they ever expected this to blow up how it has. And I think this is the lesson for the big guys, the big wigs to learn, is that there is a market ready and waiting for this content. So let's see more of it.
Yes, absolutely. And I love that you said there's enough for everyone. That might not have been true a decade ago. With so much red tape around who gets to create and who gets to go to market. But now we absolutely can. So that's the big lesson. Go out and create, guys. Do the project, create the show, whatever, at any level, and just start creating. I love that so much. All right, guys, thank you so much for having us in your ears about Heated Rivalry. We've loved it. I'll pop a link in the show notes as well for Disinfluencer. If anyone's interested in checking out what Simone does at Disinfluencer, we'll pop it in the show notes for you. You can definitely check it out. And I'll also pop some information there for Studio Talent Collective, so that if you're interested in creating an in-house talent agency and representing some amazing diverse talent and getting their stories seen on screen through your studio environment, then you can too. It's all possible. Thanks, everyone, and thanks, Simone, for being on the show.
Thanks.
This episode is brought to you by Studio Talent Collective, helping you go from studio owner to talent manager with confidence. Ready to start your own in-house talent agency? Connect with me at josephinelancuba.com or via the links in the show notes. If you enjoyed this episode, please share, rate, and review. Thanks for listening, and keep shining.